Relax. It's ASMR. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to part 2 of exploring my iTunes music collection. I am picking up where I left off last time. And just like last time, I'm going to have 2 different versions of this video. One is going to be just me talking about the music as I go through it. And then there's going to be a second version of me actually playing some of the music. And that will be available for my patrons. So the last album I talked about was this one here. I consider this a pretty awesome album. I like pretty much all of the songs on here. Very good for motivation as far as like working out, and very happy, positive music. We have some more classical music here, some beautiful Gershwin. And we have some OK Go. I believe this was on a Humble Bundle that I bought that had to do with music. Usually they're associated with games that you purchase, and then part of that purchase goes towards a charity. But for whatever reason, for this one, it was music. And it was some really pretty cool music. So I got this album as part of that bundle. I've been waiting for them to do more with music, but so far I haven't run across any more Humble Bundles related to music. We have some mashup music here. This is The Orb. Little Fluffy Clouds is one of those very influential works of electronic mashup mixing music, of taking existing sounds and creating something out of them other than what the original artist intended. In this case, it was an interview done with a lady talking about her childhood and the little fluffy clouds that she remembers from her childhood, and incorporating that into a piece of instrumental music. I really like the way that song is put together. And I think the way that she speaks actually has a little bit of a kind of an ASMR quality to it as well. I think if you didn't have the driving beat behind the music, that it would still sound really engaging, just the way she's talking about the subject. We also have Aussie Miso, who is quintessential mashup. He takes tons of different songs and sounds, and he will put them all together into very long format music escapes. It's kind of the best way to describe it. This one here is 30 minutes, and these ones are a little shorter, but yeah, this is a just kind of stream of consciousness, one song flowing into another, and sometimes only for a few seconds, just to transition to something else. So, pretty neat stuff. And we have a little bit of musical humor here in PDQ Bach. He is a creation of the artist called Peter Schickele, and he created this persona of one of Bach's children that was kind of forgotten by history, but has been rediscovered. And he was terrible at writing music, but it's all very funny, especially if you're into classical music. He kind of pokes fun at a lot of that. So this is poking fun at the operetta, as well as Oedipus Rex, which is a Greek tragedy. And he resets that tragedy in Texas, and they sing their way through the tragedy of Oedipus Rex. So We have here Paul McCartney. This is kind of like a highlight reel of his when he was on tour back in 1990. Here we have another, what I consider to be a perfect album. I like every single song on here. This is the only thing I have from Paul Simon as a solo artist. And I could just play this in the background and enjoy absolutely every minute of it. This is kind of Christmassy winter music. I don't really put it in a Christmas category, but it is definitely very appropriate to play it during that time of year. I originally had this as a CD back, probably about the time it was released. Really enjoyed it. Here we have the Pentatonics, YouTube phenomenon. Really, really good in everything they do. I'm thinking about getting their newest album. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. And then we enter into a very favorite part of my collection, and that would be the Pet Shop Boys. Next to Leonard Cohen, they are in my top of my list. And it's kind of hard to say which one would be number one or number two. I think they alternate depending on what kind of mood I'm in. So they start here and go all the way down to here. Pretty much have, I think, every album they've released and a few singles and B-sides and stuff like that. So this one is, speaking of B-sides, an album completely of B-sides that were not the main focus of a single release, but songs that were added to the disc to fill up the time from when they had the single on it, if that makes any sense. So here we have Behavior. And again, iTunes has switched out the cover art for this. That's not what it should be. And if I had to pick probably some of my top Pet Shop Boys songs, Being Boring would definitely be in the top 5. I just love the flow of that song, the tone of that song, and the subject matter of that song. It is very wistful, nostalgic in a very personal way of looking back at your life, especially at like middle age or older, and seeing all the things that have led you to be who you are. You can tell that there's a lot of nostalgia for people that are no longer in your life. And I think this song, specifically for the Pet Shop Boys, had some special poignancy because of the AIDS epidemic in the 80s and the 90s that took some of the people that they were very close to. But I think it also has a broader implication for just anyone who has gone through life and had friends who've come into their lives and left their lives as they've moved on. I think it's just a really powerful song. And I have some remixes of it here. I have a live mix and an extended mix. At one point in time, there was a complete website dedicated just to that song, and it called it the most perfect song ever written. I don't know if I agree with that, but it really went into a lot of detail about every single line and the music and the history and everything behind it. So I'm not sure if that website is still up. That was quite a long time ago it was up. We have Bilingual, very kind of Latin kind of spin on Pet Shop Boys. We have kind of a greatest hits single. This is kind of a complement to the alternative. These are all the singles that they released over the years up until 91. One of the things I really like about the Pet Shop Boys is They have been continuously putting out music for decades. And it was not just a one-time magical thing where this group of people got together and released, 3 or 4 or 5 albums. But the Pet Shop Boys are a working group that has been together, and even though not all of their albums are spectacular, they are continually putting out new stuff and are not afraid to try new things and make new statements. This is one of their more recent, 2013, really nice album. This is probably their least favorite of mine, or my least favorite of theirs, however you want to say that. A lot of repetition and words, and I have this kind of be more complete with my collection, but I really don't have this on any kind of rotation in my listening of Pet Shop Boys. And it's not like I miss it. There's a ton of other things. This is another really good album I like. This was made 2006 in the middle of a lot of the controversy surrounding George W. Bush and the wars, particularly from a British standpoint. And I identify a lot with some of these songs, especially like Numb, which is just kind of like I need to check out of all of the hysteria that's going around in the news, and I just need to be numb for a little while. I highly recommend this album. Let's see, here's a little bit more recent, 2013. Let's see. This is very recent, 2016, and I think it came out around the time of Super. I think their latest full-length album. So you can tell that from the 80s straight on through, they are still releasing some really, really awesome stuff. Close that up. This is probably my favorite album of theirs. It's kind of, for me, it has a lot of phenomenal songs on it. You can tell I've given several of them complete 5 stars. And let me see, it's hard to try to even pick one of these. Let's do, I wouldn't normally do this type of thing. That's kind of quintessential Pet Shop Boys right there. Upbeat, positive, happy, danceable. Really is a complete package of just music that I really like. So I highly recommend going through Pet Shop Boys' discography of everything they've created. And even if you don't, buy the whole thing, I'm sure you'll probably find a song or two there that are very powerful for you. At least that's my opinion. Okay, let's see. Wrapping up the Pet Shop Boys. This is 2009. This is another album that was released along with Very. It is very relentless, and it has a series of songs on it that aren't necessarily written to be sung to. There was some music that they were coming up with that they were finding a hard time putting lyrics to. So it's kind of a really interesting take on Pet Shop Boys music, especially if you're a big fan like I am, because it's a little bit different. Let's see. Here we have, this is a rather new purchase for me, Phantogram. This was an album that was created out of a tragedy. I believe it was a member of one of the band members' families committed suicide. And so this is not necessarily a happy album, but it is kind of a processing of different types of emotions that kind of birthed this album, or at least birthed some of these songs. And it's very poignant and beautiful. Then we get into another one of my favorite artists, Philip Glass. Quite a few of his, if you like minimalism and kind of more modern classical music, definitely Philip Glass is right there at the top. We have Plush Gun. I got this album because of this song right here, and then kind of eventually fell in love with all the other songs on the album. Pamplemousse, another YouTube internet sensation. I have several of their songs. They do a combination of mashups as well as original songs. And they have kind of evolved over time. Natalie Dawn, I believe is her name, is kind of going off on her own and creating her own music. And her husband is one of the founders of Patreon. So he is kind of being pulled in the direction of managing Patreon full time. So I think that's kind of a neat story of them wanting to support themselves and have other artists be able to support themselves. So they started Patreon, and it's taken off from there. Let's see, we have Prodigy, Firestarter, electronic, really hard-driving electronic music. We have some just kind of, this is a mashup of Super Mario Brothers sounds from the console game. It's kind of a fun, nostalgic song. This is one of the oldest albums I've had. I remember purchasing this as a CD ages and ages ago. Another perfect album for me. This is new age, but it is a kind of upbeat, poppy, new age music that you don't, at least I haven't run across anything really kind of like it since. Most of the time when you think of new age, you think of long, slow, boring soundscapes that you put on in the background and just kind of chill out to and don't do a whole lot. But Deep Breakfast is the kind of thing that you put on to kind of chill you out, but at the same time not put you to sleep, I guess. I probably need to look and see if he's put out any other music. But this has just kind of been in regular rotation. I knew a family who played this every single morning, I think just because it said Deep Breakfast, but it is the type of thing you can play and not really get tired of. So you can tell it's kind of a chill mixture of different kind of new age soundscapes, but in a more upbeat tempo. And for the time period, especially 86, that was pretty unique for that type of thinking about music. We have Roy Orbison, amazing voice, amazing songs. Again, iTunes has just kind of popped in a cover art that I don't recognize, but let's see. Speaking of old albums, when I was a child, I listened to this, and this was my first exposure to classical music. I was kind of raised in a bit of a sheltered environment, and classical music wasn't really on my radar. And I forget who got me this. I got it on like vinyl, like LP album, like put on a record player and drop the needle on it and play it. And it's not necessarily all that sophisticated, but for someone who's a little kid, I thought it was great. I played it all the time. And I think that kind of helped me when I ran across the actual pieces that this was like a mashup of. it eased my transition into appreciation of classical music. So even though people may consider this an abomination and schlock, and in some ways they're right, it helped me, I think. Here we have some more Scandinavian pop music that I really like. Let's see. This is an album, let's see, Christmas Silent Night. I like Sarah Brightman. I have a few of her songs, not a lot. This is probably one of my first conscious purchases of tracking down a segment of music that I had heard and then doing research to find out who created the music. And then when I found the CD, I actually purchased it immediately. I forget which one of these songs. It looks like it's having some trouble with the numbering. I instantly recognized it, knew the name of the album, and I think I bought this when I was over in England. I found it somewhere and purchased it, and I really like their dance music. Here we have, what is this? Now, this is Postmodern Jukebox, all about the bass. That's a fun little song. I found that on YouTube. Bought that. And this is another Postmodern Jukebox. This is the only one, and which is normally a rap song, but she does a very incredible job of doing more of a kind of jazz, slowed down, soulful version of it. This is a piece of music that is, I don't remember where I ran across it, but I found it beautiful. I think it was probably on like a free download CD or something like that. And it is, I haven't been able to find anything else from this artist, but really enjoy it. It's kind of just a very mellow piano piece. Some Simon and Garfunkel, kind of their best of, really enjoy them. Let's see. This was a free, iTunes free song they offered, and again, they've changed the cover art on it. Same with this. This is not the album cover for the Smiths. This is, but for whatever reason, they think it's part of The Wedding Singer. But I don't like when iTunes does that. Let's see. This is something I just recently, Tainted Love and Where Did Our Love Go? This came up on iTunes suggestions for music I would like, and it worked because I really like these two, so I downloaded them. What is this? I think this is another mashup. Stephen Colbert Christmas. This is musical Into the Woods. I remember falling in love with this when it first came out. My friend introduced me to the music, and it was kind of my first introduction to Stephen Sondheim. And with the movie that came out, it kind of reminded me of how good this music was. So I purchased the entire original cast recording, because the movie is a truncated version of this. They cut out like an entire act out of the actual musical. And while the movie's okay, I think it does suffer from not having the full story being told. Stephen Taylor, really great 80s artist, contemporary Christian music. I like the fact that a lot of his music is, especially this song, is acknowledging the fact that Christianity is not just all about, sometimes you hear success and positive thinking, that Christianity is really about the dark times as well, and your experience in life. It's not a means to an end, it is something in and of itself. let's see. Paprika is an awesome Japanese anime full-length movie, and I watched it, fell in love with these two songs in particular, and so I purchased them. Let's see, this is I purchased this when I was really into 8-bit music, and it has some 8-bit elements to it, but I've since purged a lot of my 8-bit. I kind of got over that phase. It was neat, but I got tired of it. But this album's stuck around. It has some really good stuff on it. Another YouTube sensation, Tessa Violet. Some really powerful songs here as well. She has an excellent voice, excellent mix to her songs, and some excellent messages as well in her music. Tetrastar, they do a lot of mashups. I mean, not mashups, covers of different songs and then create them in an electronic format, electronic style of music. So they're really fun. And then we have Poppy, who I have gotten into her album and songs, Low Life, Money, Altar, and American Kids. She's kind of come on the scenes rather recently through her very strange and kind of surrealistic YouTube videos. And that's kind of where I first came across her, because that's right up my alley with that type of David Lynch type of strangeness. I think some of her latest YouTube videos are kind of, I don't know, they've kind of lost a little bit of that, but particularly some of her first ones. And so that kind of introduced me to who she was. And so, yeah, a bit of a manufactured artist. I think she's probably kind of categorize her as an art project, as opposed to necessarily like a artist that started on her own. I think she was kind of found and brought into a project. So, but still awesome. Here we have the Animals. I bought the entire album. I don't know where it is, but I have to check that out. Anyway, I bought this because they have one of the original versions of House of the Rising Sun. When people think of that song, they usually think of their version of it. So that exposed me to them. And here we come onto another large section that I have, starting here and going all the way down to here, and that is They Might Be Giants. Quirky band from at least the late 80s, if not early 90s. And they've another band who's continued to put out songs across the decades. Some of them, again, good, some of them kind of mediocre, some of them I don't like. But definitely in the quirky, maybe surreal, but doesn't necessarily have to make sense, doesn't have to necessarily have to be this serious. A lot of very, let's see, interesting takes on life and love and stuff like that. So you can tell, kind of quirky, upbeat. They use a lot of accordions, and they play a lot of polka music in their stuff. But one of their albums that I really like is John Henry, and this is when they kind of tried to go in a different direction. It got really panned because it was not something that they normally do and what they were known for. I really like this album. It is a little darker, a little more adult and grown up than some of their other stuff. But I probably play this more than any of their other stuff. They Might Be Giants is definitely in my top 5 favorite artists. And moving on, this is another album that I came across early on. I don't remember where I downloaded it from. I think it was in the craziness of the early 90s, the late 90s, when music was just flooding out onto the internet and MP3 formats were brand new. And I ran across this music, downloaded it, and I came across the name of the band, which was Tidal, which is a very clever name, but it makes it nearly impossible to search for a band named Tidal. And so I have not been able to find anything else that they have done, or even been able to purchase this music. This is a cover of Just Can't Get Enough, and then this is an original song that they wrote, I believe, called Wednesday. But yeah, upbeat electronic. I wish I had more of it. I came across this recently. This is kind of a I came across this in exploring the music genre, vaporwave, and this is the type of source material that they would use to make a vaporwave song. And so I came across it and fell in love with it. Here we have some more contemporary Christian music with Twilight Paris. We have the theme song to Twin Peaks. We have the Best of YouTube. We have the Best of U2. Then we have their Songs of Innocence, which Apple gave away for free. I think a lot of people didn't like that for whatever reason. I loved it. I think it's a great album. If you're going to give away an album, this is the one to do it. Here we have Erdrus. He has one of my all-time favorite songs. It Was a Great Year. Again, kind of in the realm of being boring as far as kind of a wistful nostalgia. I think that's a theme to some of the songs that I really like. I really need to see if he's done anything else lately and probably purchase it. I really like his style of music, and like I say, I just have a few here and there. I need to track him down. Here we have Unte Lemper. She is a German singer, and this is her singing the songs of Kurt Weill. I came across this around the same time that I came across Leonard Cohen, checking this CD out of the library, and fell in love with her voice, specifically this album. This is kind of my introduction to Kurt Weill as well. Biting satirical songs of the Third Reich and him having to flee Germany, come here to America. Wrote some very beautiful, kind of sappy Broadway musicals, but also some very biting satirical stuff as well. So really like his stuff. Here we have Vangelis, another favorite artist of mine. Was introduced to him through Chariots of Fire. We used to play this in our school because it was music that was acceptable, but it was modern. And I remember at some point in time, I think in this kind of last 20-minute musicscape that was for the movie, it has like this pew 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 laser sound in it, which back, in the early 80s was like amazing. We'd never heard of anything like that in songs. Synthesizers were just kind of starting to really make an impact on music. So I'm dating myself, but that was really cool stuff back then. So I have continued on with Vangelis. Mask particularly is a really nice, heavy, dark, operatic type of music. Let's see. This is the soundtrack to Toys, one of my favorite movies. I know that's a bit odd, but it hits all of my type of favorite things. It is surreal, it is playful, it is looking at the world from a kind of kid's perspective with an innocence, but yet with not a naivete. That you can have joy and innocence and not be stupid, and you can make that as a choice to not be completely jaded and calloused towards life. Plus it has a great soundtrack, so, and it's got Robin Williams, so what's not to like? So even though a lot of people hate this movie or just completely don't know about it, I recommend it at least to watch it once. The ending is a little rough. I wish they had redone the ending. It kind of falls apart. But for the most part, the movie itself is phenomenal, enough to me to overcome some of the weaknesses of the ending. Let's see. Don't have a lot of rap, but I do have Watsky. I like his kind of take on rap music. This is, let's see, If It Be Your Will. Their version of It Be Your Will is what introduced me to these and why I bought this album. It's a Leonard Cohen song, and their voices in it will bring you to tears over and above the song itself being powerful. So, very delicate, which is exactly fitting for that song, kind of a pleading prayer type song. Absolutely perfection. Here we have some Weird Al Yankovic. I go through phases of liking Weird Al and then not liking him. I'm currently in a not really liking him that much, but especially when I was younger, who didn't like Weird Al Yankovic? So this is another old album that I got. It was released in '73. I didn't buy it back then, but definitely when I was a teenager. It is Bach played on synthesizers back when synthesizers were, like, you can see how big this thing is. Not the little handheld keyboards, but a full-on computer system that you had to have to generate the music. So I like that. Some White Stripes. Wynton Marsalis, phenomenal trumpet player. This is kind of a mixture of all the different types of styles he's capable of. Xuxa, I love Xuxa. She is a Brazilian phenomenon, really. She had a kids program in Brazil, and it was exported to the United States and played really, really early in the morning. But that was the time when I was getting up to bike into work back in the 90s, and I would just have her on in the background while I was getting ready and kind of waking up and getting myself ready to bike the however many miles it was to work. And so I kind of was introduced to her music, and I got this, mostly just kind of reminisce about those times in my life, more than this being phenomenal music or anything. I mean, it's kids' music, it's upbeat, but she's released a ton of it, and she is a superstar in Brazil, a cultural phenomenon there. Very, not much is known about her here in the States. I think she kind of tried to launch herself into the States, but we're just overwhelmed with the schedule that meant. So I'm trying to see here if there's anything else. Like a lot of this other stuff. Dr. Horrible, sing-along blog. If you have not seen this, it was released on YouTube in sections, and I actually have the DVD of it. This is Josh Whedon, It's kind of internet project, and I highly recommend you seeing it. Not just the music, but the entire thing is very, very powerful. It's more Andrew Lloyd Webber, some Christmas music, some Ibiza. This is a collection of songs. Part of me wants to eventually buy a lot more in this collection, but these two are particularly ones that grabbed my attention that I really liked. So Les Mis, some old music from the 1900s, early 1900s, 1901 to 1920, kind of scratchy record, but this is the recording that we have of music from that time. So it's not on regular rotation with me, but I do enjoy it. Same thing with this. This is a massive collection of Broadway tunes starting in the early 1900s and working your way through to Fiddler on the Roof was the most recent one, which was back in the 70s. But some just good musical history. And then some theme songs to Netflix shows. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Particularly my patrons, I hope you've enjoyed hearing some of the songs that I've played. But over and above that, I hope that you've just enjoyed kind of going through my music collection. I've actually added a few things since I shot the first one. Particularly Aurora. This is my new current passion of an artist. She is absolutely phenomenal, and I think I'll probably go out on this, but I had to come all the way back up here to play some of this for you guys. I highly recommend this album. It is another perfect album for me. I play all of these songs all the time right now. Definitely check Aurora out. I stumbled across her on YouTube from a song that she sang in a studio during a radio show, and just kind of went from there for an entire evening, tracking down everything that she had done, and ended up buying the album. So I'm very interested to see where she goes from here. So anyway, as you can tell, I'm passionate about music, but I think pretty much everybody is. And I hope you've enjoyed this. I just wanted to sneak that little bit of last little bit of music in for you guys. I will see you in my next video. Please subscribe to my channel, and if you want to see the entire thing, go over on my Patreon and sign up for the level that allows you to unlock my Patreon only videos. Okay guys, thank you very much. Bye.